Greetings everyone, and we're off to another episode of Fanfic read-through. This one is not much different than the other ones, only it's a bit shorter than those. It's actually only 5 minutes and 19 seconds, which was actually very easy to read for one reason. I think I'm getting better at this, I don't know. Anyhow, here it is. Ghost Crime, Chapter 10. It was hours later that Danny returned invisible to the interview room, turning back to his human form before going visible again. He stretched, wincing at the pain going through his abdomen. He leaned against the glass wall, waiting for the pain to subside, wondering how long it was going to take before it had healed enough that it wouldn't bother him anymore. Normally wounds would heal within 3 days if not infected, but they didn't hurt like this. Fishing his phone out of his pocket, Danny checked his email. One mail from Jazz. Hopefully it's about the sword and nothing else, he thought. The three friends had decided to ask Jazz for help finding information on the sword and its ghost connection, thinking that the FBI wouldn't bother with that part of the investigation. Jazz, always willing to help her little brother ghost hunt and being far superior in searching for information, had linked a couple of web pages into an email, together with a short description of what they contained, summarizing everything at the end before going personal and asking Danny why he emailed her in the middle of the night and what happened with the convention he had been so excited for the last time they talked. Smiling, Danny gave her the half-truth. A ghost was loose in Chicago and carried a weird sword that nullified his attacks. He sent the message and opened the links to read. Being completely concentrated on what he was reading, Danny didn't notice Agent Giro before she stood in front of him, holding out a mug of coffee to him. He blinked, taking the offered mug as she nodded for him to follow her out to the conference room. "Didn't want to wake the others. Looked like they needed their sleep," she said, pointing to a tray of sandwiches and donuts on the conference room table. "Breakfast?" "Thanks," smiled Danny, and sat down beside a tired-looking Agent Luke. "Did you get any sleep?" asked Dr. Lewis, turning a mug of coffee in front of her. The FBI agents had obviously taken a break from their research. "Some," said Danny, taking a sandwich and biting into it, realizing that he was hungry. "What time is it?" he asked between bites. 8 a.m. and nothing new to crack the case," said Luke, looking like he was falling asleep where he sat. Danny looked at the agents eating their breakfast and literally just pushing papers around. He could relate to how tired they were, having spent many nights fighting ghosts and then cramming for tests the next morning, with no sleep so that he could just fall asleep during the test instead. "Did you check the legend of Jack the Ripper?" he asked, having read through Jazz's summarization of what she had found. "You think the unsub is a Jack the Ripper copycat?" asked Agent Prentice, sipping her coffee. He shrugged and sipped his coffee, dark and bitter, just the way he liked it. "My sister said that the sword was from the 18th century and that it disappeared not long before the famous murders in Whitechapel, London took place." "That doesn't make the unsub a copycat," said Agent Prentice. Danny picked up his phone again, chewing on his second sandwich as it opened the link his sister had sent him. "All your victims had their throats cut, and except for last night, they all had organs missing." Danny nodded at the whiteboard, where the details stood beside photos of the victims. "That's how the canonical 5 Ripper victims were found." "Yes, that's true," said Prentice, straightening in her seat. "And the third time, the police suspected that the killer had gotten interrupted because no organs were removed." Now everyone was waking up. "We suspected some medical expertise because of the removal of organs, just like they did back then," added Rossi, now looking through the papers in front of him. "Didn't you say that the unsub was just standing in the alley when you saw him?" asked Dr. Lewis, flipping through her notes. "Yeah, you think he wanted to be interrupted?" asked Danny, remembering the dark alley and how the killer had actually seemed to be waiting for something or someone. "If the unsub is staying true to Ripper legend, then there should have been a second victim last night," said Agent Prentice, emptying her mug of coffee. "I'll go check with the officers," yawned Luke, getting up from where he had been sitting, snatching a donut on his way to the door. Listening to the FBI agents talk, Danny ate a donut. He was pretty certain that they weren't dealing with a copycat, but the real Jack the Ripper, if what Jazz had found out in her last link was any good. It referenced the sword cane and the legend around it. In short, it was the same as Frickshaw had told them the night before. No one had survived owning the sword for more than one night without turning into a killer. How is Frickshaw going to control it, wondered Danny, watching his friends stir as they woke in the other room. They looked blear-eyed up at each other before looking for Danny. Seeing him in the other room, they came out to him. "Is there some good news?" asked Tucker, in a low voice, sitting down beside Danny and taking a sandwich. "Think they found something to go on," said Danny, showing Tucker and Sam Jess's email. "Jack the Ripper," mused Sam excitedly, sitting down on Danny's other side. He poured coffee for her and Tucker as she read. A moment later the door to the conference room opened, and the red-headed detective walked in and made a beeline for Rossi, annoyance flickering in his eyes. Someone woke up on the wrong side this morning, whispered Tucker in Danny's ears. Nah, he just found out that all the samples of my blood and the ectoplasm is gone, together with all the information on it, smiled Danny to his friends in a low whisper, his mug in front of his mouth. You didn't, smiled Tucker, seeing the innocent look on Danny's face that never fooled him. I thought I would have to falsify the data when it got to a computer. Danny shrugged. Couldn't sleep. There's always the chance that they make paper copies and notes that, by the way, are no more. Tucker and Danny watched as the detective talked to Rosie. After a moment, Luke came running into the room as well. There was another one, he said, and the room exploded in activity. The three friends glanced at each other, having a silent conversation of their own before they nodded to each other, and Danny once more disappeared. End of chapter 10.